If you could see how ghetto this setup is right now, dude, it's ridiculous. I have my lotion, like a completely squeezed out bottle of face moisturizer that's wedged in because the camera was off tilt, and now this is what I think is straight crazy. We're on the second strategy of war, and the only reason that I'm filming right now is because I was on my way to the morning boxing class, and I did not want to miss it at all because the teacher there is he has to be 18 years old, and he does the entire workout with the class before, so the 8 a.m. class, and then he does the entire training session pretty much with the 9 o'clock class. Like, obviously when there's more people who are doing other rotations, that's when he's just kind of on timer, saying, you know, when to go, when to stop. But when it was just me and him, when nobody showed up to the 9 o'clock class last week, he did the entire fucking training session with me after me watching him do the entire workout with the 8 a.m. class. And I could completely swear, I would bet on this, that wasn't obviously his training session for the day, and that he was still having to go to a workout later in that day. And it was a freaking machine of I swear, he cannot be older than 18 years old. This Argentinian badass. But anywho, that's how I find myself filming right now, is because I was trying to walk to the gym and I could not walk. Like, my fucking left foot is sprained, like my ankle. And I stopped in a moment there because I got up, and it was even hard for me to walk to the fucking bathroom this morning. And I was just like, I am not missing this fucking class. And so I put on all my shit, changed. You'll notice that this is the longest I've ever grown out my facial hair in a very long time. And we're committing to it. So right now, because I'm on this noble quest, this adventure, I just want to see what would happen if I just did not shave. So that's what we're doing. And I'm considering not cutting my hair as well. So this has been like 2.5 weeks since I've gotten a haircut, but I'm testing the waters of what would happen if I just grew out everything and then became this wizard. But the reason that I share this is because I was at a crossroads today when I put on all my shit and I said, I'm going to the fucking gym, fuck this foot, because I was able to put pressure on it from a heel off the ground position. But when it's flat foot, it's like I have a sprained ankle. And I was able to cross the street, like get downstairs, cross the street. It was even difficult for me to go downstairs. And I made it across the street, and I was like, it literally hurts to fucking walk every step. And I took a deep breath, and I was just like, because I asked God, I prayed a very specific prayer. And you can people learn things the hard way or the hardest possible way. And it's all relevant to this law. People learn things the hard way or the hardest way. It takes me, in my past, to touch the stove to know that it's hot, for me not to touch the fucking stove again. That's how I would learn, is I would learn from pain, and I would learn from suffering, and I would learn from severe defeat. Just from stubbornness, just from ego, just from a lack of humility. And I learned here in my journey of martial arts, I'm on the end of month 4, that I don't need to learn the hardest possible way. I can learn the hard way. That's how it was in Brazil. I can learn the hard way, okay? Meaning, there was a guy who got punched in the face in one of the sparring classes in Brazil at the gym Fight House. He got fucking decked in the nose, completely blood bleeding everywhere, drenched on his shirt. And then I assessed that situation, and I said, because I was up next against the guy who did that. And I said, I think if I don't keep my hands up, that is gonna happen to me. And sure enough, I'm sparring with this kid he's a boxer, and he had a sprained finger. He's using one fucking hand. And by the grace of God, he only had one hand to fucking use. And the blows that I received to the face through the penetration of the cushion of the gloves, I said, had my hands not been here, I would have shared that guy's fate and had this, this bloody nose, this temper broken, damaged fucking face nose. Just needed to learn the hard way. I didn't need to learn the hardest way. In fact, I would even wage on the side of that's learning like the easier way. The reason that I say that is I asked God and I prayed for the humility, the strength, and the discernment to learn the easy way. To learn the easy way. Like, I don't need to learn the hardest way. And I said, God, I don't even want to learn the hard way. I said, give me the discernment, the wisdom, the strength, the humility to learn the easy way. And so what did I do? I fucking turned tail, tried to give myself as much grace for missing the workout. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm not going to just sit here. And so I was like, okay, then I'll go to the gym. And then I just like to the bodybuilding gym. I was just like, just relax, just calm the fuck down. So right now with my stupid ass sprained ankle, I think what happened was in the last boxing class, we were doing squats and I went very, very deep on a flat foot. And I think that hyperextended the ankle joint this way because I'm very tall. I'm tall, I'm 6'2". And for me to hit depth, I usually have to be on a raised heel. But in everything, I was going very, very deep. And I would think in the moment I was pushing past my mobility. And so I think that's how I injured it. But neither here nor there. But that's why we're here and there. So we're on strategy number 2. You'll see how all of this is relevant to this strategy. Do not fight the last war. 33 strategies of war. Do not fight the last war. When I first read that, I thought what he was talking about is to like give up at the end. Like, don't fight your last battle. That's not what he's saying. When he's saying do not fight the last war, he's saying when you're in a new circumstance, a new predicament, a new arena, a new theater of life, do not go into it as if you're fighting the last battle that you did with those ideologies, that education, that plan. Don't fight the last war in this new one. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's where people fail, is they take all of the book knowledge, all of the scripts of the past, and they utilize all of that going into this new interaction. And that is the folly of them thinking that, oh, because it worked this time, then it's gonna work this time. That's not adapting to a new circumstance. That's not having humility. There's a good quote from the show Spartacus. Underestimating your opponents is a Roman trait, Agron. Do not fall prey to it. So, and the first thing that came to mind was if you've ever seen the movie Rounders, if you hear noises because I'm fucking fidgeting with a goddamn floss. Because I had coffee, I was ready to go to the gym, man, fuck. But now you get all of my energy in this lovely video. So, the Rounders. If you've ever seen the movie Rounders, it's a classic film with Matt Damon and young Edward Norton. Amazing actor. He's fighting, I forget the guy's name, he's French, something Malkovich, something like that. He was one of the original Musketeers, and he's playing poker against him, and he has this fucking horrific KGB accent. He sounds so fucking bad. And in an interview later on I think it was with Matt Damon, he's talking, and he just, the first time he heard that fucking horrific, impression, he's just like, Jesus, dude, this guy's acting is horrible. And that actor came up to him, he was like, I'm actually really bad at acting, but I just play it off and nobody gives a shit. And it took that pressure off of him that everybody's just making it up as they go. And that was actually another commentary on another actor, that no one here actually knows what they're fucking doing. And it's just pretending like you do, that gives you this air of authority in your field. But it's all bullshit. And it ties in, I know this is kind of an aside, but it ties into playing a character. Like, at the end of the day, every time I meet somebody new on this journey, they always ask me, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I find it fascinating how everyone is trying to make sense of a character that someone pretends to play. I hate that. I've never met a person yet on my journey that is comfortable with just being. I've never met that. I've never met somebody who they don't need to pretend to be a character that they're not. They don't feel the need to do that. I understand it from a provisional standpoint. It's, how are you protecting your family? How are you providing for your family? I understand that. But I was on a walk with God the other day, and I just said, I know that this is what I want to do for my 30s, in my last years of tenacity, vitality, energy, all of these things. There is nothing I could possibly utilize my time better than developing, pursuing, becoming more than the man that I've been through martial arts. And I love that we're doing the 33 strategies of war, and on my journey I'm doing it in tandem, in symbiosis with this. So it gives me that leg to stand on. Just like in the 48 Laws of Power, how I was utilizing all of them within my job, I'm doing all of these, and it's awesome that I'm getting to incorporate these strategies of war within my, I was going to say stewardship, within my apprenticeship when it comes to learning martial arts from all of these great masters. But regarding the movie Rounders, not to lose my train of thought, Matt Damon, we were talking about playing characters, and then I'll get to the movie Rounders, not to dilly the dally, but that's always been my biggest frustration. And I said, I want to do this, this journey, and then I would love to live the rest of my life being and not playing a character, and I feel like that I'm doing that right now. But right now I'm kind of playing the character of Tarek, the fighter, Tarek, the MMA competitor, which is also something that I wanted to share. I think, and obviously it's contingent on my fucking foot injury, but I had a verbal conversation with my current coach, Caesar, awesome guy, and he, at the end of our last, I think it was the MMA class or jiu-jitsu class, the one that he teaches in the evening, they alternate, I don't remember which one it was, might have been MMA, or jiu-jitsu. He walks me over to a board and he was like, what do you think of this? And it was a jiu-jitsu competition, and then the other one was for a boxing fight. So in 3.5 weeks, I'll have my first one of each, granted that I can compete. I'm way less concerned about the jiu-jitsu one, just because if you can't best your opponent, you can simply tap out. But the boxing one, I don't know how that's gonna go, because for two reasons. Number one, I've never fully exerted myself on anyone in the gym except Marcelo, who was my boxing coach when I was in Brazil, just because he was on the national fighting team. Like, he was a professional Brazilian fighter. To give you context, he fought against Alex Poatan Pereira, who's the current #1 UFC champion. He fought against that guy twice. So I knew that I could give him my absolute, I'll try to punch him as hard as I possibly could and know that it wouldn't do anything to him. But other than that, I've always caught myself at the end of a strike, just because when you're sparring with somebody, particularly a lot of the sparring partners I have are smaller than me, it does nothing to them to use all of your force, all of your power. Similarly, to people who have more experience than me, it does nothing for me for them to fucking, give me brain damage kind of deal by just beating the shit out of me. But I say all of this to say, despite the playing the current character that I'm in right now on this journey, but I'm on this hero's journey right now. You have to understand that. I'm in Argentina, and God gave me direction the other day of what country to go to next, and it's not the one that I thought. I thought I was going to be going to Chile, and he was like, nope. So that actually ties into this last quote of 100% fluidity. When you're walking your hero's journey, and I know that all of these, I'm jumping to a lot of different ideas right now, but I'm trying to keep them all coherent. You have to have complete surrender. And I've learned that on this journey, that once I'm able to recognize the pattern, that this is not where God wants me to go, then I have the strength to let go. I have the humility to let go. But I'm trying to piece together along the journey where I'm being led to and what I'm supposed to do at any given day, at any given time. For example, today, it wasn't written for me to go to the morning martial arts gym. It was written for me to make this video, So who knows the ripple effect that this one video has on someone, later down the road in the future, or on myself through the reflection of these lessons, that I can apply myself to my own future, predicaments and circumstances. If you've ever seen the movie Sherlock Holmes, Sherlock's brother, that's how he talks. Circumstances, British. But yeah. But the last thing that I want to say of playing the character is That's the one thing I wish I met with more people, because I saw a great video the other day. I think the number was bullshit. How the fuck would he know? He's just making it up. But people who I see in my algorithm, I consider and deem as my angels on my journey. For the good quote, we're all just walking each other home. So I don't, I apply this law particularly to anybody who I meet or am introduced to that is new, with their knowledge and their wisdom, that is wisdom that I don't have, kind of a deal. And so the idea is we're all walking each other home. We're all walking each other home on our path. Every single person that you see, they're a mirroring back to you where you are on your journey and sort of guiding you where you need to go. The reason that I share that is the people who I was seeing, sorry for the noise outside, they have a higher level of consciousness than the vast majority. And this guy was like, there are 144,000 people who are awake. He said 72,000 men, 72,000 women. And they're sort of their twin flame counterpart, where these are the only people who have woken up within this video game. And it's the rarest thing for me to meet anyone who has the level of consciousness that I have. And I don't say that with arrogance or hubris. It's when you see somebody who has been lulled to sleep by their day-to-day, by the system, by their lack of experience with exposure to heightened level of consciousness. For me, what expanded my consciousness was doing drugs, was doing psychedelics. Anybody who has ever done mushrooms and you're able to see the world from the other side, you can't really view the world going forward without those rose-colored glasses, even in a state of sobriety. Just because you understand that what you're seeing is it's so limited. Your physical reality is so limited. And then when you do things like I'm doing right now, I just do today's day 89 of retention, something I've never done in my entire life, something I will never do again. I mean, I say that, but to be honest, it's fascinating what happens when you as a man retain your life force energy and you're not constantly depleting yourself. Your awareness goes, and it heightens your energy from energy conservation, and your energy level, your consciousness level, if you think of it as a spectrum, goes higher and higher and higher to where you notice all of these subtle details, these little Easter eggs within your day-to-day. That's as if you were on a psychedelic, that's if you're on a drug. And so what's crazy is you can achieve a higher level of consciousness in a state of sobriety. You don't need to, be awake by taking a drug. It's quite the trip, but the reason that I share that is most people in your day-to-day, they're playing the fucking character. They're lulled to sleep. They're distracted by garbage that is a weapon to keep them asleep. I remember, I can give you a perfect story. I don't care how long this video is. I had smoked weed with a Ricardo who was staying at my place in California. We were watching the Olympia, and in that heightened state, we could see the entire thing through the veil, literally the wizard behind the curtain. And I was able to see how the entire thing was scripted. The entire show, it was just, for Chris Bumstead to win the Classic Olympia, it was completely fixed. The commentators knew he was going to win and retire before he was even placed. And I was able to discern that from the lack of surprise when he announced it, from the lack of, that was the biggest one, is there was no, oh my gosh, and they played it off with horrible acting as if they were surprised. That was the complimentary little fine detail. But also the fact that they never placed the guy who would have won. What is his name? He's this humongous guy from the Netherlands. I cannot think of his name for the life of me. But anyway, classic bodybuilder. It's William Dam. Can't remember it right now. But he would have won hands down had he been put next to him. But they put him across the fucking stage in shittier lighting, all of this. And then the commentator, and he had won the classic physique Arnold the past 2 years. And the commentator's like, yeah, there's something, the lighting is just different on this stage. And it was complete bullshit and scripted. But the reason that I was able to see wow, this is all garbage was from that. And then the other thing that I want to say in terms of being lulled to sleep, I was actually able to see the show for what it is. And it was as if the guys who were directing the athletes of where to stand, what to do, I literally was able to see them as slave owners, because they acted no differently to their slaves. these slaves being brought up and presented as if they were a slave at auction. And then their slave master saying, stand here, do this, be obedient. And dude, it was insane. And then I'll share this little tidbit because I learned this from Daryl, who channels the entity Bashar. He said, if you were to meet someone from an older age, an older civilization, you would literally appear as glowing to them from your energy, from your presence. And I didn't understand what that sentiment was until in that state I was watching. There was a guy in a wheelchair. They had a wheelchair handicap disabled division within the Olympia. And I swear to God, he was glowing. He was glowing. And I said, how is that? What am I seeing right now? And the reason that he was glowing was because of his presence. He was responding to the questions that the guy with the mic was asking him in real time, as in he was completely present there. And that's what you could see. There's a glow that you have when you're present in the moment. And the guy was following a script, as in he was just, his head wasn't there. He was saying shit, and the guy was responding so quickly and doing these, his wit was so on point from complete and utter presence that you could see one person following a script and one person completely immersed in the moment. And it was incredible. The reason that I'm sharing all of this is there's such a divinity in presence. There's such a divinity in not playing a character and not pretending to be someone that you're not and not wearing a mask. And everyone who I've met on this journey, they're so content. They're so intent. They're so insistent on playing a fucking character for the totality of their life. And I was having a conversation with God the other day. I was just like, I can't do that. I can't spend my one life pretending to be somebody, pretending to play a character, wearing a mask. And it's like, I've done that script. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was undergrad at UCLA and I worked in concessions, I was hot dog Tarek. I was the guy who bussed, the tables and the counters. I was the guy who cleaned the hot dog fucking grills and, put water on the frozen pretzels and then dipped them in salt and then sold them. I played the concessions character. I played the warehouse, distributor and delivery driver and character. I played the barista character. I played the Target fucking hardlines employee character where you're in this, or the cashier. I played the personal trainer character. I played the office work courtier character. I was like, I don't want to play a fucking character anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to be me. I just want to be myself. I just want to know myself and then act accordingly. Do you know what I'm saying? But in the world that we live in today, everybody just wants to play a character. Everyone just wants to follow a script. Everybody just wants to be put in this one fucking box and have that define them for the rest of their life. And so it's interesting how when you're, I don't want to say you're awakened or you're more enlightened on your spiritual journey, but when you have a higher level of awareness of the video game that you're in, you're just like, I don't want to follow the fucking script that everybody else is, because it's like, where that path leads. It leads to slavery. It leads to your soul being on fire. It leads to you carrying around all of this weight your whole life. And you don't get to experience the ecstasy of that freedom until you are in that defiance of, I'm not going to play a character. And then once you feel that euphoria of getting to be yourself, you will never want to go back to playing character ever in your life. And I knew that from doing entrepreneurship. I knew that from quitting my job the first time. I know that now from quitting my job the second time. Like, there is such a fucking euphoria to being free. Sorry for the honk. To living your life on God's time, in complete flow, I fucking don't like the uncertainty, I'll be honest, but you get you have no idea what the day is going to hold, where you're going to be guided to, what insight you're going to get, a perfect example. Up until 2 days ago, I was under the impression that from Argentina I was going to be flying to Chile, and then Chile to Colombia, or Chile to Peru, Peru to Colombia. Before that, I thought I was going to be going to Bolivia until I saw that they had a required fucking yellow fever vaccination to get through, and I said, I'm not doing that shit. So, but I'm constantly in a complete state of fluidity, and it's a constant surrender that you have to do to stay in flow. The battery's going to die, and the other one isn't fully charged, so we're going to see if we can continue this lecture one second. You understand my point, so I'm no longer going to be beating this horse, but wouldn't this world be so much better if we just stop playing a character, if we stop pretending to be somebody that we're not, and we actually have the courage to be ourselves. It's crazy. But to get to the lecture, to the law, do not fight the last war. And you understand what that means. It's don't take all of your knowledge, wisdom, experience from this and then presume with all these preconceived notions that your new encounter, your new arena within your life is going to mirror the script of the old. The movie Rounders with Matt Damon, Edward Norton, and whatever Malkovich character. In the final scene, they're playing poker, and then Matt Damon checks. So you're not betting, you just check. And he does that the entire fucking time. And then he's hustling him because at the very, very, very last thing, he's going all in. He chooses to go all in instead of check. And the guy was just like, oh, dude, you're bluffing kind of a deal. And then he wins. And he was just like, you motherfucker, you tricked me. He's like, I'll game you this motherfucker. Check. And so, what is the whole reason of that, okay? The first bullet point that I have, I learned this from Tony Robbins. He said, this is the greatest power that you could possibly harness within your life right now. Pattern recognition, pattern utilization, pattern creation. What I learned very quickly about myself is in the context of my intelligence, I have a very, very, very strong processor when it comes to pattern recognition. Pattern recognition, meaning, if you've ever seen the movie Civil War in the Avenger franchise, and Captain America is fighting against Iron Man, and then Iron Man tells his AI, Friday, to assess his fighting pattern. And then she's able to see all of his combinations, and then he was just like, perfect, counter, okay? And then he's able to boom, and then take him out, right? The first thing was pattern recognition. The next thing was pattern utilization. And then you have pattern creation. Then you get to decide where the game goes, okay? Sorry for the noise outside. I learned that with myself within fighting. I would go into this new sparring gym and I teased Marcelo, my boxing coach from Brazil, and I said, you just invited me at this gym so you could beat me up. And I was sparring with one of these boxers, and you could tell everything from his doing like this Philly shell shit. He was somebody who's been boxing for at least a year, and probably more. And the first time I sparred with him, he beat the shit out of me. He put me literally to a wall, to where all I could do was defend myself, waiting for him to stop. Like, it was literally, I got fucking pummeled. Okay. That happened one time. Why did that happen one time? Because what I learned, sorry for the dog, what I learned when it comes to people in fighting, especially in the boxing gyms, the martial arts gyms, is typically people know one combination or a finite set of combinations. And once they perform them all, they don't do anything that's a surprise. And so you know what they're gonna do. And so I'm assessing this guy, and he would always do a low hook to bait me to drop my arm down, and then he was gonna fucking do a high hook to my face. So he was gonna do a low, like, body uppercut, and then boom, here, okay. He did that, and then he got away with that the first time. And then I was just like, huh, he does this shit every time. So when he goes to block, like down here, I'm gonna immediately go up here, and then boom. I would catch his thing every time, and then I'd be like, I know he's gonna put his arm up here. He's gonna go for, he does body, head, body, head, body, head. And when he goes to my body, his head is gonna be exposed. I'm gonna step back, and then I'm gonna be able to go. Once I was able to recognize their fucking pattern, then I was able to utilize their pattern to position myself accordingly. And then I was able to create a pattern in order to best the opponent, having 1,000th of their experience. Do you know what I'm saying? That comes from pattern recognition, utilization, creation. I learned that from Tony Robbins. Does that make sense? Okay, moving on. Thus, one's victories in battle cannot be repeated. They take their form in response to inexhaustibly changing circumstances. I forget what general that was written by. It might have been, I don't remember. I don't want to butcher it, but it was one of the generals of times past. It might have been Tsao, like it's like Tsao. or it might have been Napoleon Bonaparte, or it might have been the guy of the 5 rings, Miyoshimi. Fuck, I can't film with that noise. We'll pause here. Alright, I was able to watch a couple memes on Instagram and the noise subsided. It was a clip from American Dad. I thought we were friends. You thought what I made you think. Okay, so the quote, thus one's victories in battle cannot be repeated. They take their form in response to inexhaustibly changing circumstances. And my commentary on that was why PvP creates better women and men than PvP. God damn it, the fucking noise. I can't film right now, it's crazy. We're gonna cut to a commercial break, and we'll be back after these messages. I just want to film this lecture. Alrighty, it sounds like they turned their generator thing off, so I think we're good to film right now. So here's the deal. So the last quote, to reiterate for a 5th time, thus one's victories in battle cannot be repeated. They take their form in response to inexhaustibly changing circumstances. And my commentary on that was PvP versus PvE. The reason that, if you've ever played a video game, and then I'll tie this into IRL, if you've ever played a video game and you've done campaign mode, the script is the same. As in, the opponent, the enemy, the boss, they do the same shit, the same mechanic every time. So if you die, it doesn't matter, you go in and they do the exact same fucking thing. Why is that incredibly easy? Because once you learn the single mechanic, then you can adapt your gameplay accordingly, right? So when you play a video game, you're just like, wow, these nerds that take this stupid shit so seriously, who think they're, all of this, have these egos, these, this inferiority complex, or superiority complex. That's honking, that's not the drilling. That think they're better than other fucking people because of this, made up prestige kind of a deal. And you can see how all of this ties into how the rat life works, with people with made up titles. And you're just like, wow, these guys are the biggest pussies. They've never stepped foot into the arena. They don't know what actual stress is. And the script is the same every single time, so what they're doing takes no skill. Okay. It's the same thing when you go to real life. I worked in a school district. You work off of an annual calendar, meaning you do the same events every fucking year. It's the same conferences, it's the same meetings, it's the same leadership activities, it's the same tasks, it's the same annual calendars. Nothing fucking changes. Every 6 years or so, you have to do like a visit from, it's called WASC, a department that oversees your internal operations, to make sure that you're in compliance with all of this bullshit, such as your gender compliance and pronoun compliance and diversity, equity, inclusion. It's garbage. Point is this. It takes no skill, it takes no intellect to where I was able to work and do. If you've ever seen the movie, I think it's called Office Space, and he's like, in any given week, I probably do 15 minutes of work, of actual real work. Otherwise, I just space out, I pretend like I'm working, I'm not. And he said, it's a matter of incentive, Bob. You see, my only incentive is to not get hassled. It's fucking hilarious. And completely applicable today. And I think that movie came out like 25 years ago. But you see all these people who go to the rat life and they silently quit because their intelligence far exceeds what they're being compensated to do. And you're sort of reprimanded that if you do well in your performance, you're gifted with more tasks and more activities and more work rather than an increase in your pay or in your compensation. And so they utilize and milk you to the end of time until they can't milk or utilize you anymore. But understanding that when I was in the rat life and having done entrepreneurship, and you're working with people who have their fucking cortisol raised to an email, and you're just like, dude, you're just an environment of the greatest pussies, and people who are so weak, particularly the leadership. Like, I was around leadership who would have fucking mental breakdowns, and you're just like, they're literally throwing a tantrum as a 50-fucking-year-old middle-aged man, and you're just like, dude, get your shit together. It's crazy. And because you have this sort of imposter syndrome that you're not in management, you think, oh, this is just how it works here. That's how I had initially. Oh, this is just how it works at the top. It's like, no, these people are just horrifically equipped to handle any sort of real stress because they don't know what real stress is. And so their stress tolerance is non-existent because this is their level of operation. All they've done is PvE their whole fucking life. All they've done is play the game on campaign mode. So the reason that I say that and why it develops such greater men and greater women is because when you get forced and pushed into an environment where your back is against the corner, your bridges are burned, and you're in that fight or flight, do or die, sink or swim situation, you will marvel at the level of resourcefulness that you arise to. You truly rise to the occasion, meaning when you don't know when your next meal is coming from, when you don't know how you're going to make ends meet, when you don't know where you're going to fucking live that night, and I can attest to that, traveling and not knowing, if I had the means to pay for a hostel and having to do those, manipulations, you become very, very resourceful. You become very innovative, very creative, and you go into overdrive in terms of sharpness and work mode. You forfeit all of that. I don't know if it's dexterity, all of that sharpness, all of that awareness, all of that, autonomous ultra instinct and, Dragon Ball Z. You forfeit all of that power when you succumb to the safety net of the 9-to-5 paycheck. You forfeit your wings. You can't fly. You get conditioned by fear. And it's the biggest crime actually today, that people have no idea their divinity. They have no idea their true power because it's all dormant, because we've been conditioned through education, through modern education, to be led by fear. So where people are too afraid to even try. And when you're like me and you can see the system for what it is, you're just like, what, dude, I can't make sense of this. I can't make sense of working in a 9-to-5 place where the numbers are made up numbers on a screen. As in, you're a fucking accounts payable line item to these people. They don't even view you as hiring you, they view you as buying you. I swear to God, that was a Freudian slip of my servant superior. I don't understand, we could just buy one. We could just hire a new assistant. And it's like, they don't even view you as people. They view you as a single line item of accounts payable that gets direct deposited into your account. That's all you fucking are. You are 8 hours of utilization for them. You're 8 hours of time that they're able to buy every day. Your time, your resources, your energy. And people who don't understand that, who have never done entrepreneurship, who have never started their own business, they have no idea their value. And so they make sense of fucking breadcrumbs of breadcrumbs of breadcrumbs. What do I mean by that? I haven't filed them yet, but I just did my taxes. And you're able to see how much, okay, so here's your base salary, and all of this is taken out to taxes, and then whatever you buy is taxed, and then and so you get the breadcrumbs of the breadcrumbs of the breadcrumbs of the breadcrumbs. And that's what people live by. And it's like, this is normal, this is fair, this is just. No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. But because we're conditioned to be led by fear, we just accept it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? But it creates better men, people who have been into the arena, people who know, it develops your character, it develops your work ethic, your perseverance, your will, your heart, your passion, your resourcefulness, your tenacity, your willingness to fight. It makes you such a better leader when you're, the quote from Theodore Roosevelt in Man in the Arena, when your face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who if he errs, at least his place will not ever be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. I hear that fucking thing starting in, and I feel like it's going to make noise, and it's really pissing me off because I was laying down in the bed and I was just like, okay, God, you don't want me to go to the gym because of this sprained ankle. You don't want me to film this. It's just like, I want to work. It's crazy, but we're going to keep going. So I hope that makes sense. And I feel that generator just fucking turned on, and I'm getting very bitter now. God damn it. I can't film this shit. By the grace of God, I'm going to get through this video. I haven't even eaten yet because I'm just like, I just want to film this. I just want to be done. But now you can understand why PvP actually takes skill and thought. And the reason is because in every new interaction, when you're playing against another player, okay, when you're playing, which is what entrepreneurship is, it's real-time business. It's real-time competition, strategy, all of this. You're not living in a vacuum in a bubble like you do when you say you work in a school district where everything is just grant and government funded, where they just print money and then it's all made up. We get these made up grants, we get these made up fundings, it's made up numbers on a screen, it's not real. You're playing with fucking monopoly money. Versus when you're running your own business and you have to work on client acquisition, customer retention, customer referrals, doing the marketing. You have 1,000 things that you have to do, and you're competing against 1,000 other people in your same bracket, your same industry, versus everybody can get loot and funding and have these programs all over in every school district and every school, and it takes zero skill and zero perseverance and zero will and zero all of this to be a leader within a PvE, player versus environment organization, versus the arena player that you become when you're against another player. If you tie it to a video game, how much more sharp are you when you're actually, and how much more fun is it when you're playing against another player who can actually change the mechanics? They can actually go off of script, right? Off script, and play the game. And then you're living in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the whole reason for all these fucking interruptions, is I have to adapt these videos and my commentary with, you know, all of these fucking interruptions and interjections versus, you know, going off of the script that I had of my lesson plan. You know, it comes full fucking circle. It's frustrating. God damn it, as it is. Okay. Quote, understand. The greatest generals, the most creative strategists stand out not because they have more knowledge, but because they're able, when necessary, to drop their preconceived notions and focus intensely on the present moment. And I put presence is greater than script. So understand that. Your power when it comes to seduction is in your presence. It's not thinking about what you're going to say ahead of time and what they're going to say and countering that. It's your ability to have that give and take, that push and pull, live in the moment, completely fluid. Even if you're so well versed at it that you know what you're going to say ahead of time to this response to this, and then you're able to make it feel organic, but it ties into it. It's presence. It's adapting to the circumstances as they come and then acting accordingly. You can apply that to seduction. You can apply that to sales. You can apply that to fighting somebody. Presence is power versus going off of the script, the fucking plan that you had before. Why? Because if you've ever actually just seen, I'll give you a perfect example. You're walking into a Jamba Juice, a Starbucks or whatever, and they say, hey, how was your day? And then you're like, oh man, it was actually really terrible. It was horrible. I feel like garbage today. Oh, cool. That's great. Because they're not expecting you to go off script. You're just supposed to fucking say, oh yeah, it's good. Thanks. You know, and so you can see the people who are present and who are not present. And the fun thing is, when you're sort of awake in the video game, you control people who are following a script. And I will give you a perfect example where it becomes fun. You're walking down the street in a video game, and you think it's not related, but they're completely related. In a video game, you walk, and then if you get in close enough proximity of a character, you aggro them. Okay, and so it'll trigger a response. Like you walk by an NPC close enough, and they'll say, "Hello, friend. Hello, traveler. Can I help you today?" Whatever. Okay, it's no fucking different in real life. You walk close enough to a vendor, to a person, to an NPC in this video game, and then they'll fucking talk to you saying the same script that they say to everyone else. How is that any fucking different? How is it any different from a fucking asleep video game NPC, a non-playing character? And then when you're awake in the video game, you control them. You know, I remember I was in, it was Montenegro, this Budva, Montenegro. And I was with this gay dude, awesome guy named Parker. And there was these guys trying to sell, fucking bracelets outside of the festival that we were in. And then he was like, no grazie, no grazie. And then he was like, oh, sorry, I'm Muslim. And I was just like, what the fuck? But you could literally just troll and say anything that you want. No grazie was hilarious because he was speaking Italian and they're in the Balkans. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, because we speak English and he's replying in Italian and they speak Slavic language. And then you're Muslim. I was like, what the fuck? Just, number one, you're not. But number two, what does that have to do with anything? It's fucking hilarious. But the point is, that's where the fun of life comes in. When you're playing with presence and you're going off of script. You're not following the fucking blueprint, right? Okay. This is a really, really powerful quote. Education is easier than re-education. Education is easier than re-education. And I put because of arrogance and a lack of humility. I remember many moons ago, I was living in, this was the Irvine apartment? Yeah, the Irvine apartment. And I was talking with this girl over Instagram, and then she ended up coming over to my apartment for a training session where she wanted to transform. She wanted to, get in better shape. And I had, at that point, had been coaching for like, damn, that had to have been year 8 or year 9 of me and my fitness journey. And so maybe year 7, year 8 of me doing coaching and personal training and online coaching and all of these things, right? And she was somebody who put herself in a severe caloric deficit, very, very severe, like over 1,000 caloric deficit. And she, didn't understand for the life of her why she was plateauing. And so I explained it to her. And I said, the reason that you're plateauing is because your body thinks it's starving. It thinks you no longer have access to food when you put yourself into these severe caloric deficits. So what it's doing is it's holding on to any stored body fat, any stored energy that it can, in the hopes that it'll prolong your life long enough to where you'll soon have access to food. It's actually trying to save your own life. But that's the brilliance of our body, and countering the lesser intelligence of the vessel, right, of the person. But I told her, I said, for your goals, it would be in your best interest to increase your calories. You've literally shrunk the organ of your stomach to where you feel full on these rabbit-sized meals from a history of a lack of eating. And so what we need to do is we need to increase your calories and put you at just not even a surplus, at fucking maintenance, at the amount of calories that it takes to maintain your fucking body weight before we can put you into a caloric deficit, and then you'll see linear progression again. And I explained all this shit to her, and then with her fucking arrogance and her hubris, she said, no, I want to do that. I want to do what I've continued to do. And I said to her, number one, pretend I know more than you. And the second thing, I was just like, I said, it is the utmost arrogance and hubris and stupidity, and that's probably why I didn't sign her as a client, to say, so what I've been doing I've played with this pen so much, it has these fucking pen marks on my fingers. What the strategies that I've been utilizing have gotten me the results that I'm currently living in today, that I'm not satisfied with. And so to gain a different result, I'm going to do the same thing. That's the definition of psychotic behavior, is doing the same thing expecting a different result. And someone could observe it's the definition of fucking stupidity, where what I have done for these past years has gotten me the results that I'm severely dissatisfied with and unhappy with. Why would not doing something different away from this norm benefit me to be in my best interest? And so sure enough, I said, you have so much arrogance that your hand is like this, and so you're not in a position to receive anything, because you're just like, you vocalized to me, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not interested in advice or counsel that is veering away from the path of what I've done and what I know, which has not worked. And so that's why I say this quote is so powerful, because you can apply it to real life fucking stupidity. Education is easier than re-education. Somebody who is with a completely open mind, and this is what has made me such a strong student for the past 4 months of learning martial arts. I'm going in on a complete canvas. And I learned this from Grant Cardone regarding sales. He said it's so much easier to have a new person learn sales for the first time in an organization than to take somebody who's learned poorly and has a shitty foundation from another one and trying to unlearn all of the stupid shit that they learned. You can hear all the cracking in my shoulders. Unlearn all of that garbage that doesn't work, and then teach them what we're trying to teach them. It requires humility. Humility to let go of that. Humility to say, I don't have all the answers. And a lot of people who are a little, they think they know something. They've gotten some victories. They've gotten some money in their account, and it exposes all of their arrogance and all of their ego and all of their hubris. All of it, I think it's from Tony Robbins, Abraham Lincoln. It's anything that you get, whether it's like status or money or a physique, all it does is magnifies who you are. So if you're given, the quote from Abraham Lincoln, if you want to see a man's true character, give him power. If you want to see a man's true generosity, give him money. And see, it's just going to magnify who he is. If he's a generous person, he'll have more to be generous with. If he's a selfish person, he'll have more to be selfish with. Okay. Unlearning something for someone requires that ability to let go, to say, I don't have all the answers. And the best leaders that I saw, or that I've observed on this journey, were the black belts, were the professional fighters, were the champions, were the ones who have been in the arena and who are learning from somebody who's a third of their size, who has a third of their fighting experience, who does not have their black belt for the past decade. And they're going in with such a level of grace and humility and open-mindedness and willingness to learn. Those are the best leaders, the ones who understand a single truth. I have something to learn from everyone. everyone that I meet, everyone that I interact with. And as soon as you have that arrogance to say, I know it all, I've done it all, I know more than you, that's when it's game fucking over. And it's not to say to not have discernment, right? It's not to, there's a good quote by Alex Hormozy, don't take advice from people who are living a life that you don't want to live. And I had to learn that to sharpen my discernment when on my path, and I'd be getting advice from people who it's like, I don't want to be you. I don't want to have your life is fucking miserable to me. You're not happy. You hate your marriage. And I'm just like, I have no fucking, and they would presume to give me advice and counsel, whether it was dating advice, whether it was life coaching advice. And I just said, all you can do, especially in the courtier and the rat life, you can just smile and nod. And then there's a quote from, I think it's Jack Nicholson. He says, smile, nod, and then go do whatever you're going to do anyway. And just say, fucking ignore these people's advice. Because advice is free. And everybody feels the need to give it when they lack what Ray Dalio describes as believability. Meaning, if I want advice from someone who's in jiu-jitsu, the one who's a black belt, they have a greater degree of believability based on their authority and credibility. They have authority to speak on the fucking subject versus, and I can fucking vouch for this, there was that dumbass, arrogant fucking white belt. It was his second week in there, presuming to fucking teach me technique in all of these positions and this. And I said, motherfucker, you're brand new. You don't know, you have no idea what you're fucking talking about. But it's people with this unparalleled level of fucking arrogance and hubris. And so you have to understand that, and you have to have that degree of discernment who I'm taking advice from. But simultaneously, and this is the beautiful grace alchemy of the whole thing, having the humility and wisdom and open-mindedness, open-heartedness to say, I have something to learn from everyone. Okay. But those were the best leaders that I saw who were lifelong students, who were these champions. Callum von Moger is a good example too. Before his injuries, you would see videos from his YouTube channel of him training in Gold's Gym Venice. He was a modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then he would be getting these guys who are a third of his size, a fourth of his size, would be giving him advice on, to curl this way, and he would just be like, oh, okay. And he looked genuine. He looked sincerely genuine about heeding their advice, heeding their counsel, and then applying it, at least for that training session. And I just, for my level of development or lack thereof at that time, I couldn't conceptualize. I was just like, I couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was just like, this guy is 3 times this person's size. Number one, where does this fucking person get off on giving this person advice? But number two, how does this guy have the humility to be this open-minded when he's, obviously so much more wise, has greater wisdom, strength, experience, knowledge, know-how, everything. You know what I'm saying? I hear sawing outside, I'm fucking talking over it. At least that's not the fucking drilling. Unless it gets super loud. I have to stop this again. God. This is driving me fucking crazy, man. We'll pause. This episode is going to be the death of me with all these fucking interruptions, but we're trying our best and we're going to get this shit done. I don't care. By hook or by crook, I'm going to finish this lecture. But that's why education is easier than re-education. There's a good quote. When you are faced with a new situation, it is often best to imagine that you know nothing and that you need to start learning all over again. For that same reason, and it's actually why people, they're so set in their ways. And it's because it's a lot of inner work to undo all of the past programming, to let go of past belief systems, to let go of all this bullshit of this identity that put your fucking heart and soul to wrap around. To let go of all of this, it requires so much fucking strength to let go of all these ideologies that are bullshit, that are not true. All of these belief systems that do not serve you. All of this ideology, mentality that has just been a detriment to your life. Why? Because it's all tied into your identity. It's all that you've known up until this point of your life. So when people challenge that identity, they threaten to shatter your entire world. People who have traumatic pasts and experiences, they can attest to this. It's like when somebody is identifying a belief system that you have that perhaps I'm not worthy of unconditional love, and this is a belief system that you've conditioned yourself to believe for your entire life by the shitty experiences that you've had from parents or from family or from whatever within your life, abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. The reason that you hate that person so much is because of what they're exposing within your own belief system, as in, this is what I'm worthy of, this is all I'm enough of, this is what I deserve. So you hate them because you hate for what they're exposing, and you hate yourself for believing that. I know I kind of said that quickly, but you can tie that into everything. And so what requires more strength? It's letting go. What requires a lot of strength? Admitting the truth that the state that I've lived in, this belief system that I've held for the past several years, was my fault. Why? Because I was the one holding on to it. That requires a lot of strength and humility that most people don't have. And the beautiful part about the transformation, about breakthrough, is once you do let go, that's when healing, that's when you're actually in a position to receive. And that's when you're gifted all of this insight and beauty and grace and love from God, from your universe, from your reality. And then you get to become that fucking butterfly, outside of the cocoon. But that all comes from giving life that space. Do you know what I'm saying? To give you the information that is in your best interest and that is serving you. And what I've learned on my path right now, and what I'm dealing with on a daily basis, that whenever there's resistance, God is asking you, there's something that He's asking you to let go, at least within that moment, of a timeline, of a story saying it has to happen in this way, in this sequence, in this, of your plan. When it's like, what if God can give you the exact thing that you want, not in the way that you think? And that's exactly how the game works, is you go towards your highest excitement, and that's you literally being in surrender to the flow of your life, and then having to constantly let go. And it's a constant battle to not grab the wheel and say, I'm going to do it my own way. And I had this recently where for a day I downloaded dating apps, and I was like, God, I'm so sick of waiting on you. I'm so sick of this, and overlooking the healing, the growth that I still had to do, the healing that I still had to do, the time, everything that God was working on me, everything that God is working on with my person. I was just like, dude, I don't know where to draw the line between inaction from an effort from my own perspective, or from my own for myself, and for being in complete surrender and openness into letting everything happen. And the fact that there was so much resistance and frustration and impatience and anger, it's like all of that is a reflection that you're not ready. You're not ready. And you can apply that to everything, is when you are like this and saying, I need this to happen in this sequence, in this timeline and everything, that's you operating from a state of scarcity and fear, saying if it doesn't happen here, it's never going to happen. If I don't have love here, if this doesn't work out, and that's why people will hold on so hard. And I, for myself personally, can attest to this from my own experience. Hold on to something from the past because you're just like, this is it. It's this, or it's never going to happen again. And so it's just like, I'm going to, overlook this person's fault. I'm going to overlook this person's lack of development, this person's projection, this person's, all of the things that I know that they're not in a good place to be in harmony with me for the sake of this connection or of making this work. That's scarcity, that's lack, that's fear-based living. And so you're sort of charged with by God to operate in a state of abundance, in a state of flow, in a state of, I don't need you or anything. And once you find that wholeness and completion within yourself, that's the energy that you now give out, is I'm whole and complete on my own. I don't need another person to complete me, to validate me, to do anything. They would just complement me. They would just be like two matches that are individually already lit, that once brought together, burn and even brighter. You know what I'm saying? Versus one that's completely doused and completely out, and then they're just, taking. What Greg Plitt talks about, a give and take in relationship. As in, all I'm doing is giving and all you're doing is taking. So all of that comes from you being whole, you surrendering to the flow of your life. You know what I'm saying? And you being in a position to receive what God wants, what your universe wants, what your reality wants to gift you, to gift you. But I can't give you something, knowledge, wisdom, experience, insight, if you're so fucking hell-bent on this story, on this limiting belief system, on this bullshit. It needs to happen here in this sequence, in this timeline. And once you humble yourself, and time does that. Time will fucking humble ourselves, because we'll say, oh my gosh, it needs to happen now, this. I want it so bad. And then when it doesn't happen, then you're just like, ugh. And you're over it. And then once you're finally over it and you don't want the thing anymore, all of a sudden now you're in an energetic match. You're in a vibrational match to receive that thing. It's very fucking frustrating and annoying, but that's how from my observation, that's how life works. As soon as you're fucking over something and you don't want it anymore and you don't need it anymore, and you're fine without it, that's when you're, okay, now they're ready for it. And it's just like, fuck you. But that's the game. There's a quote from Nikola Tesla, is that the whole world is energy and frequency. The secrets of the universe is energy and frequency, I believe is the quote. So when you're faced with a new situation, it's often best to imagine that you know nothing and that you need to start learning all over again. Why? Because then you're in a position to receive. If you've ever seen the second Gladiator movie, shitty movie, but it's somebody who's the personification of Christ. And what one of his teachers tells him is, you came here with a completely open mind and a completely open heart to receive all of the things that we were here to teach you. And that's what made you such an incredible student here and was actually able to become the man that you are now, right? I've noticed the exact same thing in my journey within martial arts. Is me, somebody who is very bright, very intelligent, very smart, going into this environment where I presume to know nothing, and I continually presume to know nothing because I don't have the fucking arrogance and stupidity and hubris to say I know more in this arena than any one of my teachers or masters ever, even if it's something that is being taught again from a lesson that I've learned in the last country when I was in Brazil. And you learn, okay, this is how you get to side control in jiu-jitsu or an arm bar or whatever, and they're teaching the same movement here. I don't have the arrogance to say, oh, I know this already. This is a completely new lesson, a new lecture by a new teacher with some new insight here. You go in with an open fucking hand. And that's what makes you the best student. And you'll find this on the mentor, mentee, master, apprentice, Padawan. I've been getting fucking Star Wars shit in my YouTube, reels recently, the YouTube shorts. Those are the best apprentices and students and mentees are the ones who have such a willingness to learn. They're completely coachable. They have a complete open mind, and they're grateful. And that's the last thing that's most important. You learn this from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, that if you go in actually taking to heart all of the insight, wisdom, knowledge that these people are so generous to give, and then you're grateful for it, and then they see you applying it in real time, they're so much encouraged and inspired to give you more. It's the same as if you were with somebody else and you give them a gift of knowledge, of wisdom, of experience, or a physical gift of a fucking toy, whatever. And you see them, they're so grateful for it, and you see them actually listening to you and doing what you told them to do. How much more, how greater are you encouraged and inspired to give them even more knowledge and more wisdom? When I was working as a personal trainer, those were the people that I was happy to train for free. I would be happy to train them without them even paying me because they wanted it more badly for themselves than I wanted it for them, and they were super grateful for my time. And so they weren't wasting my time. They were in it to win it. They had the heart and passion. All they lacked was the little tools, the little knowledge, the little tiny little cog in a greater wheel. And so I'm just like, dude, I'm happy to bridge that gap for you and then see you fucking thrive and blossom. And then I would get more elated on their personal best, on their records, on their wins than any of my own. And that is the best feeling of contribution that you will ever experience. It's when you give to somebody who's just so happy to be there and grateful for your time and your, everything that you impart. All it does is encourage and inspire you to give them more. You get so much oxytocin from that exchange, and so it's good food for thought. To go in with an open mind and a humility, man, that you have something to learn. To finish, clearing your head of everything you thought you knew, even your most cherished ideas, will give you the mental space to be educated by your present experience. The best school of all, completely true. When you're present in the moment, you see all of the magic and wisdom and little insights and Easter eggs within the video game. Presence is magic, presence is power. There's a good quote, I'm going to butcher it, by Bashar. He's like, when you spend your life living in the present, you'll spend your whole life unwrapping gifts. Because that's what the presence is, the present moment. And I put your ceiling potential, and I put my experience in training in different countries in entrepreneurship. So to reiterate the quote, to finish, clearing your head of everything you thought you knew, even your most cherished ideas, will give you the mental space to be educated by your present experience, the best school of all. And what I learned, or what I'm observing in real time, is I'm getting an unparalleled level of education by changing gyms within my martial arts journey right now. Meaning, had I not gone to Argentina, I would not have known the level of cardio conditioning that a person can be subject to, can be put through, can endure. And it's actually, I don't want to say this, it's the only reason why I'm so much skinnier right now, but it's like I've lost a decent amount of muscle tissue. From the month of December, there was severe undereating. And then right now in the month of January, I've never done this much cardio in my entire life. And from a muscularity retention standpoint of retaining muscle tissue, you're sending your body mixed signals when you say, I want to sustain this amount of tissue, but I also need you to have the strength and stamina to last for a long period of time. For example, sprinters will have very, 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 very big muscles because they're just like, I just need you to work in this short amount of time. You see this with sprinters, and you see this with like football players. They're just like, I just need you to be on and utilize all of this strength and power within 10 seconds of a play. That's it. Long distance runners, they tell their muscle tissue a different story. They say, no, I need you to last 4 hours. I need you to last 8 hours. And so that's a whole different demand when it comes to your body. So when you're doing something like severe cardio training for longevity and stamina, and then severe bodybuilding, it's conflicting fucking messages. And so it's very challenging, I'm noticing right now, unenhanced targ, to retain a high degree of muscle tissue with this caliber of cardio conditioning that's not just HIIT training, but it's like it's nonstop. It's nonstop cardio, where by the time you start the actual sequences and drills in the boxing class, you're spent from just these jumping jacks and burpees and shadow boxing thing. It's pure cardio. It's crazy. But the reason that I share that is anybody who I met in the classes in Brazil who have never trained in a gym like this, they have no idea that this is a new ceiling, because you only know your known environment. And so I'm learning that in real time, where it's just like the people who do the same class, the same thing every single time, that's their ceiling. And you'll notice this with the people who are these teachers, is they get comfortable. They're not trying to train somebody who's, wants to be a world champion or wants to be their best champion self. They're training the mom. They're training the fucking kid who's on summer break. They're training the child. And so you're in an environment where that is the bar, that is the ceiling. And so you can only hit the fucking ceiling of the place that you're in. You're not going to see yourself operating higher than that, because that's what the thermostat is set to in that environment. That's the climate. Do you know what I'm saying? And so even if you perform well and then you're sparring against these people, you're going to find yourself coming back down here. It's not a positive for you. You always want to find environments where you have to work harder and rise to meet that new degree, that new caliber of expectation, of excellence. And what I'm learning right now is you get the number one, the fastest growth. You get exponential learning by being in an environment where this is the new standard. You get your ceiling heightened, so your potential unlocked every time you put yourself into one of these environments, because of, this is now, it unlocks the belief system that, I'm capable of more, from just a cognizance of understanding that there is more, that there's levels to this, okay? And that's something that is such a gift that I'm not, losing sight of right now. As in me going to these different countries and training in these different martial arts gyms and these different fight gyms, it's making me 100 times, 10 to 1,000 times of a greater person, a greater fighter, a greater future husband, a greater future father, leader, than I otherwise ever would have been had I stayed in my comfortable, known norm. You know what I mean? And it's actually quite disheartening when you see all these people who have incredible potential, but they're afraid to go on their hero's journey. They're afraid to leave home. They're afraid to go on their journey far away from home, because contentment, comfortability, leading a life led by fear, a limiting belief story, I have to have this money, I have to have this set up, and it's just, you will learn your resourcefulness. And when you're at the stage where I am, where you know that it's not even me with the pen at this point, it's God writing the script, it becomes an adventure, and it becomes the adventure of a lifetime. And it becomes the kind of journey where you learn and become more than you ever thought possible. And then in entrepreneurship, that was my second bullet point. It's like, I want to reiterate one more time, you have no idea your level of resourcefulness that you can succumb to, that you can arise to, until you're put into that situation, until you've burned your boats, like the story of the great generals of the years past, where they would order their soldiers to burn their boats or take an island because they wanted to leave them absent choice. What was the choice? You're going to take the island or you're going to die. And so how much more hungry, how much more tenacity do those fighters have now going into that battle when it's do or die, when we don't have a plan B, we don't have a safety net. Remove the safety net of your fucking paycheck and then discover the kind of animal that you become. Dude, you unlock potential you didn't even know was there. You jump off and take that leap of faith, and then you find your wings that were always there. And that's the whole name of the game within this this realm of consciousness, this physical reality, is you come into the game as this divine being with wings. You can fly. You have so much power in this reality, right? But your memory is wiped clean. And so the whole game is us walking each other home to that very divinity, to remembering who we are, reminding ourselves that, oh, dude, I've had these wings this whole time. I don't have to go down this script. I don't have to follow the fucking dogma of everybody else. I don't have to spend 40 fucking years of my life doing something I hate, playing a character I despise, working around these fucking small-minded idiots all day, and forfeit my goals and dreams and ambitions. I could choose not to play a character at all, and I could choose just to be. How beautiful of a life lived is that? Where it's like, I don't have to be Tarek the blank, Tarek the insert made-up fucking title. I could just be Tarek. This is just me. This is just what I love to do. And I even tie it in with the martial arts that I'm learning right now. It's to the characters that I played in the game World of Warcraft. It's like, I could play a damage character, a DPS character I was a destructional warlock. I was one of the best in the world. And, because I have no inability or incompetence to do damage unto other people. And even right now, even with my novice level of experience within martial arts, it's just like, yes, I could inflict fucking damage on another person, and it's making me a better, person. The quote is, better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I've learned that, I've learned from real life application the truth behind the sentiment that Jordan Peterson shares, that there's no virtue in incompetence, in weakness. Meaning, if you're weak, if you're a nice person because you lack the ability to be aggressive, that doesn't mean you're a nice person. You don't have the virtue of skill, of competence in the arena. You know what I'm saying? You just, it's the equivalent of, it's kind of a crude example, but going into, it's not even worth it. I was going to give a fruit example of, you choosing to purchase an apple at a store when that's like your only option. You can tie that into like the dating and things, but it's a shitty example. But I've learned that. I've learned that a guy who has to sheath his aggressiveness and his dominance and he could rip your fucking head off and he's choosing not to, that takes composure and stoicism, versus the one who is cordial to you but doesn't have the capacity or competence to be that monster. Then there's no strength there. They're this docile character by fucking default. You know what I'm saying? Because they lack the capacity to be anything other than that. And so it is of no strength, it is of no virtue. It's just from a sheer uselessness and incompetence and cowardice and fear. And so what I've learned is the Tark who has this greater degree of martial prowess is a much better version of himself, but I much prefer the healer Tarek. You know what I'm saying? I much prefer the guy who doesn't hurt other people, but heals or helps heal them or helps walk them home. And that's the character that I know I will spend the rest of my life being, is that if I were to ever give myself a title, it'd just be Tarek the Healer. It's because that's what I love to do. I love walking other people home. I love being that mirror for other people. I love the energy and enthusiasm and excitement that I get to reside as through sheer authenticity, through just speaking my truth, through having those raw and honest conversations with people that are just real, and they actually want to get to the root of their problem, they want to actually they enact and demonstrate the courage to face their traumas and face their problems. Those are the people I love being around. I love having conversations with. I love imparting little food for thought, food for wisdom, on or within. And I've noticed my level and degree of articulation is unmatched when I'm in those conversations and those interactions. And I swear to God, it's as if God is speaking through me. That's the level of vessel transparency and me literally knowing what I'm in harmony with, acting as my truest self. It's because you're operating in complete alignment, because there's not a single filter, not a single layer of saran wrap, not a single mask, not a single anything, not a single weight more than just yourself. And because of that complete transparency of God speaking through me, to where my level and skill and flow and grace of my articulation is unlike any other. My energy and excitement is unlike any other. There's nothing suppressing my enthusiasm or my energy or my excitement or my ability to get through to the other person, or at the very least, if they're not in a position to receive at that time, planting a seed that I know one day will blossom. So it's all very, very good food for thought, but that's the whole idea of this whole law, which is do not fight the last war, is to have humility, to operate in surrender, to go into this place, wow, I have something to learn from everybody. Every person that I interact with is a mirror. They're mirroring back. There's something in there that's for my benefit. Life always happens for me. What am I here to do? What am I here to learn? Where is this guiding me? Where am I supposed to reflect on? If I'm finding myself with all this anxiety and all this, resistance, where is God asking me to let go, to pivot, to take a new action, to do a new behavior? This lesson keeps fucking repeating and repeating and repeating. The lesson is going to be repeated until the lesson is fucking learned and adhered to, and then a different action is taken. It's identifying what that pattern is of what I'm being asked to do differently this time. Once you have cognizance of the pattern, you're able to recognize it. That's where the transformation of power comes in. Because once you recognize the pattern, then you can utilize a new pattern. And then that's when, you can utilize that knowledge of the pattern and then create a new pattern. And it's the change of behavior that changes your life. You know what I'm saying? So with that is the second strategy of war. Tarek House. Ooh, confirmed your finished filing. They want me. I haven't finished filing the W-2 yet, but I wanted to assess to see if I had anything, if I was down, coins, and I had to spend like thousands of dollars in taxes, because I resigned from my job, fully cashed out the CalPERS, the 401k thing, and we're just like, dude, are we in a pickle? Or are we in a little bit of a pickle here? And God said, you owe zero. I'm not getting anything, but it literally zeroed out. I was like, you have an $88 refund, and then you have the cost to file for federal and for state was $88. It had God's signature written all over it. Like you're just completely clean slate, redeemed. You're just like, you get rewarded, I swear, when you have the courage to go on your hero's journey and follow your path. So you're protected, you're provided for, and you don't gotta worry about all the things that you otherwise would worry about, which I was stressed about, I'm not gonna lie to you, but now that stress turned out to be needless, and we move on. We don't fight our new battles of the last war, whatever the law was. Don't fight your last war. That was it. Why? Because that's where you're not gonna harness the power of presence and the power of recognizing a new pattern when it presents itself to you. And so you're going to be stuck in these limiting beliefs and these stories and these, resting on these past laurels of your victories and successes from the past. And that's how you're going to position yourself very defensively, very, preactively. You're going to be positioning yourself poorly, thinking you know how to best this new theater of life based on this old knowledge and old wisdom that's outdated, or it's irrelevant compared to this new thing at hand. And so all that matters is the presence to have that complete level of fluidity, right? Or the humility to have the fluidity, the humility to say that maybe I don't know shit. It's actually a quote from Ray Dalio. I'm a dumbass. Please explain it to me. And that's how he was able to become this billionaire hedge fund manager. Somebody who's incredibly bright and incredibly smart, who's the furthest thing from, a stupid person. But he goes in with that level of humility. I always have something to learn. There's always something, to make me a better person, to make me a more knowledgeable, wise person than I was prior to stepping foot in this place. And once you operate with that level of humility, you will actually enact that self-fulfilling prophecy. You'll learn from all of these people who have something to teach you, who have, something to show you. even if it's something that you don't want to face about yourself, even if it's a belief system that, you know, you have been holding on to for many, many moons, many years, you know. So with that, second strategy of war, Tarek Hawks, we're all gonna make it. Thank you guys for the video and for checking out escapetheratlife.com, and anybody who signs up to be a member within the garden of Rat Life at escapetheratlife.com. I really appreciate it, really appreciate the support. So with that, we're all gonna make it. I will check in with you guys next time. Bye.